Mom?
Mike, Miracle Mom.
Hi, Mom. So, what happened this past December? Can you tell everyone what you experienced?
Well, okay. For Brian's information, I have a couple miracles, but this is one of the medical miracles. And welcome. It was on December 9th, 2019, and I was going about my normal morning routines and feeling well and just on the internet doing what I do. And all of a sudden, I started to choke on some coffee that I was drinking. And I ran into the bathroom and spit the coffee out so I could breathe and went to take a breath. And all of a sudden I was hit with the sensation in my chest of my heart pounding as bad as a drum. And I could see my chest actually moving. My heart was pounding so hard. And the rate of my heartbeat was increasing. And then all of a sudden there was a sensation of pain, like a bad bruise. If you've ever hit a bruise that you've had, you know that feeling. Well, with each beat of my heart, that was the sensation. That was the pain that I was having. And it alarmed me, obviously. So I came out and I sat down in my chair, hoping then that just my coughing episode had set off something unusual. And as I sat there, it got worse. And then I just overall did not feel well at all. So I went and laid down, on my bed thinking, well, maybe that'll help. That didn't help at all. And it continued to get worse. And then I was getting short of breath and I couldn't breathe. So I got up. I have a younger daughter who lives with me. And I called for her and she came running. Well, then, she alerted the emergency response. And the ambulance came. They did everything that EM people are supposed to do. And I'm still not able to get my breath. The pain is excruciating. And they did, all the right things to get me in the ambulance, take me to the hospital, which is close by. Got to the emergency room, and because I'm a registered nurse and familiar with how all of these things are supposed to proceed with an emergency, I was certainly not panicked by that, but they got me into the emergency room, did an EKG right away, put me on oxygen. The emergency doctor came in, talked to me, got some information, like they're supposed to do. And then, it proceeded into further testing. And
Is the EKG normal for what you were, or what did that tell you?
The EKG that he did showed that on the EKG itself was showing heart damage.
My question is, when they took you to the EKG, did that concern you as a nurse?
They do the EKG right there when you're on the gurney. They bring the machine in and attach you to
So
it.
it's standard, basically,
Yeah.
kind of. Okay. Sorry for interrupting.
Right. So basically their approach is to do all their testing, get the results, and then come in and give you whatever information they have found. My concern, of course, was the chest pain, and they did give me something for that, which did help, but breathing was still difficult. So as far as testing, what you need to know is they also they sent me for a CAT scan of my lungs, which is, you go into the CAT scan machine and they can image in detail what's going on with any organ in the body. So anyway, they got all their information together, and the ER doctor came in and he sat down in a chair next to me. And as a registered nurse, I know that emergency room doctors do not take time to sit down in a chair unless they have something they want to discuss with you. So that was my first clue. oh, this isn't going to be good. So anyway, he looked at me and he said, well, he said, we got the results of your CAT scan and you have blood clots all over both lungs. Not just a blood clot here and maybe a blood clot there. Your lungs are saturated with blood clots. And then he said, I have the cardiologist team is coming down and they're going to look at all the results and they're going to come in and talk to you. And it wasn't even 5 minutes before 6 people came into the room and the cardiologist leading the group. And he had, looked at the CAT scan and there was just no question. He looked at me and he said, well, we need to approach this from an invasive perspective. I'm going to admit you to the hospital and we need to take you to the cardiac cath lab. And I need to go in there and I need to get those clots out of your lungs. And he was, you look at him talking to you and the concern I could see in his eyes was frightening. But that's all he would say to me. They did put me on what's called a heparin drip right away. Heparin is the drug that thins your blood, keeps your blood from forming more clots. It doesn't dissolve any clots that are already there. Those clots are there, and they're not going anywhere. And so they put me on the heparin drip and admitted me to the hospital. And what they did was they monitored my vital signs, and I was stable. Here my lungs are full of clots, and my blood pressure is okay. My breathing hadn't improved a lot, but they watch your vital signs. My blood pressure was stable. My pulse was a little bit faster than normal. The cardiologist explained to me, he said also from your EKG, I can see that you have damage to the right ventricle in your heart. He said, and that's very concerning. So what they did is they monitored me actually overnight. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why are we not doing this now? But they do that intentionally. There are people in front of you who are already in the cardiac cath lab.
Mom, I'm going to
emergency.
Hold that thought. I'm going to, another person has joined us.
Oh, okay.
For whoever it is and then they just joined, they stepped out. I don't know if that was, we were at 4. I was going to say what you're doing. You're telling your story, but continue.
Do you want me to take this to its conclusion?
Well, this is a good trial run. So this will be, bonus material, but it's a good a first stab at telling it. I will prompt you and we'll let you tell it again. We'll tell it several times until we get one down that's nice and concise. But I believe it's still Brian in here with us. Continue where you left off. Sorry.
Okay. Well, okay. So overnight I remained stable. And the next day, they did take me to the cardiac cath lab, which is an experience in itself. Very strange. Anyway, I was in that lab for an hour and a half. And they access the lungs by going through a major vein in the groin area of your body. That's where, the largest vein access is. And they use equipment and instruments they thread a catheter up through that vein. And of course that vein branches off in your lung, to all the different vessels and arteries that feed your lung. and he had to go in and actually grab a hold of these clots with this special device or instrument and extract them back down through the vein. And it took him an hour and a half. And of course, you know, as a cardiologist, he knows which ones he has to get and which ones he might be able to leave. Well, it took him an hour and a half to do this procedure inside both of my lungs. And I could feel that catheter, you know, sneaking its way up into my lungs.
So you had multiple blood clots in both lungs? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yes, yes.
And then he was extracting them through that catheter all the way, each one.
Right. They have special instruments they use. It has it's almost like a basket. It's a webbed piece of mesh that acts like a basket. And they go up and they enfold that basket around that clot and close it and then pull backwards. You get the picture?
Yep.
So that took an hour and a half. I went back to my room. The procedure went well. And the cardiologist came back in after the procedure. And he came in and he sat down by the bed and he pulled out his cell phone. And he said, I want to show you something. He had taken a screenshot of the clots he had removed from my right lung.
I think I have a picture of that. I'll find it on my phone here in a sec, but keep going.
Right. Anyway, and he shows me this picture. As he's showing me this picture, he looked at me and he said, I took this out of a dead woman.
Say that again.
He said, I took this out of a dead woman. And he looked at me over his glasses and he wasn't smiling. He was just looking at me. And I thought to myself, why did he say that? Why would you say that to me? And then I realized what he was saying. And then when he saw that I realized what he was saying, he said, yes. He said, that dead woman should have been you.
So he showed you a picture, I'm going to find it here in a sec, of what he had just done.
Right.
And he said this was a dead woman. And you didn't understand her.
He said I took this out of a dead woman.
And it didn't register.
Not at first.
You were like, why would this doctor show me a picture of some dead woman's blood clots?
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I thought, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You know, why would you do that? I wasn't associating it with me at all. And, you know, and then he kind of relaxed and he said, now these are his words. He's the cardiologist. And he said to me, from all of my experience and years in cardiology, people do not survive this. And then I burst out crying. I just started sobbing. And I didn't know what to say. I looked at him and I said, you know, I said, God works through people. And he worked through you today. And I thanked him for being there for me that day. And he just kind of, he was a humble guy, you know, humble man. He wasn't one of these arrogant, you know, I am God kind of physicians. He just, he stood up and his shoulders sort of went forward. And I thought, as he turned to walk out of the room, I thought, he's got tears in his eyes, you know.
So the enormity of the circumstance was not lost on him.
Oh, no. No. Not at all. It was as if he was in it was as if he didn't even understand it. I didn't get into any discussions, about God or any of that. It was just as if he, was shaking his head thinking, how can this possibly be? And when you see the picture of those clots, then you understand the story. You have to understand those clots, that was just the right lung. He had 3 other pictures of the left lung, but, he chose to show me the one that was the death knell, I suppose. But those clots, how do they get into your lung? You got to know a little bit about anatomy and physiology. Those clots passed through every valve in my heart when they never should have. I should have dropped dead. When you look at the size of it.
So you're saying the blood shouldn't even have made it to your lungs?
The clots never should have made it to the lungs.
So what would have happened if they didn't?
We wouldn't be having this conversation. That's what he meant.
Was it cardiac arrest then? Is that what happens if they can't get through the valves?
Yes. Your heart stops beating.
So the first miracle was that the blood clots made it through the valves.
Exactly.
And then your lungs did he say how many clots there were?
And we didn't get into numbers. And, my question was, though, when he came back the next day, I had time to think about it. He didn't get every single clot out. But I said to him, what about, the clots that are already there? Well, the ones that were there, they are in the lung, but they're not in a position to be fatal. And the body just over time reabsorbs that tissue.
So these are the ones that he didn't bother to take out because they weren't fatal or they weren't.
Right. He knew. Yeah, he knew. That they were not going to be of harm. He went after the ones that were potentially fatal.
I'm before we're done. I'm going to try to find that picture. It's a little difficult when I have you on the phone and I'm trying to search through old emails where you sent it. But
okay, that's fine.
So what is this called? What happened to you?
I had a pulmonary embolism, is what it's called.
That's the singular.
Well, emboli, pulmonary emboli.
So you had
is what it's called.
You had multiple embolisms, right?
Right. And the procedure they do is called a thrombectomy.
Thrombectomy?
Right.
And based on the pictures that you saw of both lungs, can you give me an estimate of how many blood clots that he pulled out?
Well, the one picture you have, and I don't have it in front of me either. If I was to sit there, and count them, there's at least a dozen.
And that's just one lung, right?
And that's just the right lung. Those came from the right lung.
And in that particular picture, because I saw both pictures and it looks like there's more in the other lung, but he showed you that picture. Why?
Well, because that's what should have killed me.
What?
What the picture that he showed me was what should have ended my life.
Well, there was one particular blood clot, right?
Yeah.
The way you told me originally, or when you first told me, there's one that's like 6 inches long.
Yeah, that's in the picture you have.
Right, and that's what I'll find and I'll show. This is the tease for the end of the episode.
Well, and you have to remember too. He's got them laid out there on that piece of white gauze or whatever it is.
Right, and he said that he didn't think he was going to be able to get that one. He had said that's the one he was having trouble with. This was just when you first recounted it to me.
Oh, okay. Well, I do remember him saying something like that. that it was so large, and I don't know what these instruments are, that they use to go up in there, but they're not that big. It's catheter. It's maybe the size of if you've seen IV tubing that they use in the hospital. People are on IVs and they've got the tubing from the liquid into your arm or whatever. Those catheters they use are probably about that size in diameter.
Well, the bottom line, how many people, what's the survivability of what happened to you normally?
0.
Why do you say that?
Well, that's what he said.
Okay. Now, so you're saying you have just taken 0 to a 1 because you've defied what he said. Can you explain why you did not die?
I'll have to ask God. I can't explain it.
Well,
from a human standpoint, the only way to explain it is I got to emergency help in time.
Not just any emergency help, but there's some other factors. Well, you said that people don't survive this. I was assuming that even with emergency help, normally people don't survive it, right?
Right.
Why did you survive it?
Oh, God had another idea. I don't know. I don't know why.
Well, there was a machine. There's a whole other part of this story.
Oh, you're talking about the equipment?
Right. This is the miracle. It's a miracle. There's multiple miracles here. The fact that the blood clots made it through the valves is one miracle. The fact that you landed in the right place at the right time. Can you explain what I'm referring to?
Yeah. Okay. This cardiologist told me in the emergency room, before I went for the procedure, that they were using, or that they had been granted funding to do a study of some new equipment that a medical equipment company in California had been researching. It was brand new, and it was equipment specifically designed for thrombectomy procedures, okay? And he said to me, we're going to use this equipment during the procedure, and that I was going to be part of a research study.
An experimental research study.
Right. That had been funded by the government. And they had just started using this equipment about 2 months ago. And I remember him saying to me, when this is the procedure's completed and you come back to us in a month for your follow-up visit, we'll have you sign some consent forms for the procedure. We won't do it right now because it was an emergency situation, and he didn't want to go into all of it at that time. The emergent thing was to keep me alive, obviously. But anyway, he had that conversation with me. I do remember that.
And so he said, how long had they been using? How long had they had that piece of equipment?
Well, the study at this hospital started 2 months prior to my having come in.
So if this had happened to you 3 months prior,
oh well,
we wouldn't be hearing your voice right now, would we?
Bye.
Also, how many places did the government fund this piece of equipment? How many hospitals are using it?
I'm not really sure. I can't remember if he told me that or not.
Well, it's a good
Did I
thing.
tell
It's a
you?
good thing you and I were in dialogue the whole time while this was happening. So I have it documented. I have it like I have that other podcast that I do. I have everything right after you told me. I repeated it on the podcast. So
Oh,
there are only 9 hospitals in the country that have been using this machine,
oh, okay.
and they had only started using it 2 months prior. So
Right.
aside from miracle, the miracle of medical miracles where technology saves people's lives, that if that piece of technology didn't exist, then this person would be dead, which is the case. If this piece of tech, the doctor, as you recounted to me, the doctor
Right.
said, if they didn't have that machine, you wouldn't be alive. So that's one miracle. But
Right.
when you compound it with other factors like the timing and the location, you just happen to live 6 miles away from one of the 9 hospitals that just started using this brand new piece of technology 2 months prior, right? All of those
Exactly.
factors that line up mean your voice is coming to us right now as a gift from God.
Yes.
That's all I can say.
Yeah. Timing.
All right, Mom. I got to find this picture. If I can't find it here in the next few seconds for Brian's benefit and for this video, can you get on your computer and resend it to me if you can find it? I'm going to look real quick.
Oh, okay. I'll have Vanessa do that. I don't know how to send stuff like that.
All right. Brian said, great story. Oh, you probably see that, but I do want to find this picture. Hold on.
Okay.
I can find it. I know I can. Why don't you tell me another story? No, actually, go on and talk about the research or what happened. And
What happened after I got out of the hospital?
yeah. Am I asking too much of you right now to go back?
How much more time are you going to want to spend?
Not much. I just want to find this picture. So you can talk all you want until I find this picture.
Okay. Well, I have several medical miracles, I guess you'd say. Maybe 2 more.
All right.
I don't know if you want me to go into those or not.
Yes.
Okay, I can talk about the one that happened in March of 2014, 6 years ago.
This is the one in Minnesota, in St. Paul?
Right.
Because right now you're in St. Cloud, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the one in St. Paul 6 years ago. Okay, well, the story starts out the same. I got up one morning. I got up one morning feeling very normal. Going about my morning routine, which is get your coffee, turn on the TV, get on the internet. My life's so exciting. And I'm just sitting there doing my thing and in good health for my age. And all of a sudden, I was retired by that time also, by the way.
I'm going to pause you. I'm going to pause you real quick.
Sure.
All right. I found the picture.
Oh, there you go.
So I'm going to show the picture.
Okay.
Now, this is one lung. Anybody who's watching, I should have warned you. This is graphic imagery. Too late. So this is your left lung. So there's the X-ray.
No, that's my right lung.
This is the. Oh, okay. Yeah. So this one.
Those pictures you see above.
Yeah.
See those pictures?
Those pictures.
Can I tell you what they are?
Tell me.
Well, those 3 pictures are radiology pictures. As I'm looking at the screen, the picture on the very left See that big black blob?
Yeah.
Okay, that blackened area is blockage.
Oh.
Blood flow is not getting into the rest of my lung.
So is this a radiological picture of your right lung?
Yes.
Got it.
See, I was laying in the cardiac cath lab. You lay on a radiologic table, like an X-ray table.
Right.
So they can take pictures of the inside of your lung while they're doing the procedure. The second photo, you begin to see, you can see the catheter up in there. See those stringy looking things?
So let's see. This is the second photo. This is the first photo. Okay.
Yeah. He's actually restoring blood flow to my lung by going after these clots.
So these pictures are taken during the surgery?
Yeah.
So the line you see across the bottom, is that the catheter that's going in?
Right.
So there's like two lines, and that's going through your artery or your vein?
The veins. Yeah, this was a vein procedure. Then the third picture, move that over.
This one on the end here.
Yeah, the very one on the end. You're beginning to see blood flowing like it should.
Oh, okay.
Like channels of a river. So he's opening up blood flow by removing these clots.
So here's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And the other picture that I saw of your other lung, I'm pretty sure I saw it looked like there were even more. So you have, 30 to 40 or more, because he left some in, 50, 60 blood clots.
Probably.
All
by
that,
the time you get through counting them.
That all happened simultaneously, spontaneously. And if you were an hour away from a hospital, you might not be here.
Well, in my mind, that's probably true. Even though, you have to stop and think in my mind, the other part of the miracle is that I was still alive the next morning to even have the procedure.
Oh, right.
Because he had the CAT scan done. He saw what was there, and I was always thinking, why didn't you take me right away? What's that about? But like I said again, they're watching your vital signs. If my blood pressure had dropped, if my pulse had slowed, I would have been in there. That's how they practice medicine today, I guess. But they were watching. I was in the intensive care unit, the cardiac intensive care unit, hooked up to everything you can imagine.
You got wires coming out of every different direction, right?
And just about, and blood pressure cuff they have an automatic blood pressure device, and I didn't get a wink of sleep because that thing was going off every 15 minutes.
Gotcha.
And they had me on telemetry and were able to see my heart activity out of the nurse's station. So they're watching you extremely closely.
Right.
So
I bet you were like the most action they'd seen in a long time.
Well, probably.
Well, Mom.
Yeah.
I don't want to go longer than an hour, and we just have.
Okay.
So I'll go back and forth with you to refine the story and get it down to, its points. Okay. We'll get to a point where, we won't have to do it live all the time. We'll get the story down and refine it, and then retell the story in a concise manner. Because, being a medical professional, there's a lot more things that are amazing to you because you understand what's supposed to happen and what's not supposed to happen. And so we'll get it into layman's terms and because this is a documented miracle. I mean, it's like the doctor was crying because he didn't understand why you were alive. It's like, when do doctors cry? when they don't understand,
Yeah.
good things that happen, and they just happen to be in the middle of it and be able to use this machine that they'd never had until 2 months prior. Anyway, all right. I love you, Mom.
I love you too.
I love you, Brian.
Love you, Brian.
All right.
Okay.
You can hang up and then I'll end the stream. So,
Okay. Bye-bye.
bye, Mom. Bye, Brian.